not need normal. It needs a relentless, unafraid pursuit of compassion. Every action and inaction disrupts or perpetuates the powers of oppression when you choose. You choose to upset the setup, disrupt the conduct, stand against from standardization, hunger strike for the hungry. You are greater than normal. You are more than an activist. You are deeply and truly necessary. Connected with every single one of you. Since Puppy did it, I'm gonna make a shameless PSA and say that why tell you guys this come through 12 o'clock, we're bringing back Stomp Fest, there's food, there's a food truck, so it's real official, okay? So thank you so much.
Now you all see why he has 5,000 friends. He'd be the MC if he wasn't already performing. Anyhow, I don't think that's funny. All right, our next speaker. Crystal Marriage is an incredible artist whose work is featured in many of our marketing tools. She gets asked to be a part of conferences and do art nationally, but also internationally as well. She's creative, and her creative writing is also very embedded in our brand new mission statement of the Cross Cultural Center. Her background is in youth development and grassroots community organizing. She has served the Cross Cultural Center in a number of ways as a program coordinator and advisor, and she rose to the occasion to take the leadership on of creating a mural. Not an easy task, a mural that really commemorates the last 25 years, including the hunger strike, and a vision for moving forward. So I'd like to invite Crystal up to share about the history, the energy, and the people who helped make the mural possible.
Hi, my name is Crystal Marriage. I'm a program coordinator at the Cross Cultural Center. And as Kobe mentioned, I helped create a mural in the Cross Cultural Center in commemoration of the 25 years of the Cross Cultural Center. But it hasn't just been myself. It's also been two UC Davis alumni, Olivia Hernandez and Chucha Marquez. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be here today because the artist struggle is real. We both hold like full-time jobs and also small jobs we do as artists. So what we've done is just kind of come in and try to facilitate a community process. And when we're done with our 50-hour work week, we come into the Cross Cultural Center, stay till 11 o'clock, support each other, work with students to kind of sketch this out, develop it, and paint away. It's still not complete, but we thought have some images of kind of our process, which is very much rooted in the community values of the Cross Cultural Center. So kind of inciting images that really speak to the power of culture and the power of our history and our communities, and also the different intersections and diversity of a lot of different identities that are represented in our communities, but also on our campus. I guess our process was really just developing a basic sketch and then working with members of our Cross Cultural Center staff, our student staff, to kind of get their input about what are the values of the Cross Cultural Center that they practice and they preach and they walk in their everyday life, and also on this campus here. And based off of that feedback and that collaborative work, we were able to develop a lot of these images. I guess I can explain the image. So on the left, we have an image of a mujer looking into, it kind of has like the image of space as well. It's still not complete, but the idea of that is really to kind of reconnect with a lot of our indigenous traditions and beliefs, which is the development of different types of cosmologies as the source of all knowledge and wisdom, and being able to have that represented also with a strong woman is also very important, because being here at like a Western institution, it's a lot of times like our communities and that source of knowledge isn't really recognized or validated. So it's really important. We wanted to like have that image and that energy here. And also, like, I mean, an extension of that is also realizing that we carry a part of that legacy of who we are and what we're doing here at the university. And we too, we're capable and we are producers of knowledge. We are holders of knowledge. Even if sometimes we think we're not and we're like constantly giving into that anxiety of imposter syndrome. We definitely have images that were inspired by an activist artist named Rooney Templeton, images of students with different slogans and banners that were collectively chosen by our student staff and the artists. So they say, whose university, our university, no justice, no peace, power to the people, Black Lives Matter, and queer, trans, people of color rights now. And a lot of those, some of the messaging was definitely chosen based off all that's happening on campus and in our communities right now. Definitely also as, I mean, the three of us are all like queer people of color. So just wanting to also like bring, like naming and bringing visible a lot of what's going on with our trans community and a lot of the death and violence that people in our community are facing. Because oftentimes it goes very unrecognized or it's even like people are just so complicit with what's going on. We have images also of nopales, which are also featured in Malaquias Montoya's mural downstairs in the for the Student Community Center, which are like a universal symbol of resilience and resistance. And we have lotus flowers, which represent enlightenment, and also hummingbirds, which represent, hummingbirds are just like a natural animal that exists all over the world, but in different cultures, they have different meanings and values and energies associated with what a hummingbird means. So we wanted to include that, particularly as like in our cultural understanding as how they represent the warriors of our people and ancestors as well. So just thank you for giving me your time to like talk about the mural. I think it is really important and I really appreciate, I know the three of us really genuinely appreciate the opportunity to express ourselves in this way through art. Like a lot of times what really grounds our work at the Cross Cultural Center is like the beauty and the strength and the traditions of our culture. And that's something you can't read in a book. It's every day, the path of life that you choose and the values and the person that you are and how you carry yourself in this world. And so wanting to just like really respect and honor that legacy and what our families, our culture, our ancestors really teach us about how to be, even if people try to beat that out of us or they tell us otherwise or they tell us we're not worthy or we tell us like these other messages that really go against that, we know deep inside ourselves that something really different. And so just to end, Malcolm X said that culture is an indispensable weapon in the freedom struggle. And I think like through art, through our creativity, through our imagination, we talk about building a better future. Those are all tools and weaponry that we can tap into to really help create that for ourselves. So just thank you for your time and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Crystal. And there will be time after this celebration to go downstairs and actually see the mural in the Cross Cultural Center as well. As some folks are leaving, I would invite the folks that are in the back to come up. There's plenty of seats available for people, so don't feel shy to come up. Now I'd like to invite Maria Salazar, Chicana Latino Community Coordinator at the Cross Cultural Center, who will be introducing our next speaker.
So I'm here today I have the honor of presenting Professor Natalia Dizosa, who is our next keynote speaker. Natalia Dizosa, an associate professor in the University of California, Davis's Chicano Studies Department, has conducted research in medical sociology, social psychology, symbolic interaction, race, class, and gender, and methodology. All of her work makes contributions to substantive issues in inequality. Her current research focuses on women's reproductive rights, Mexican women's access to health via formal, institutional, and informal cultural avenues, studies of curanderas, parteras, hierberas, sources of healthcare for sexually transmitted infections, family planning, and abortion, and healthcare issues with Mexican farm workers. She is studying farm workers' activism and advocacy, using the framework of cultural activism and how they claim rights to healthcare and education for their children. So please give a warm welcome to Professor Natalia D. Sosa.
Okay, so it's really an honor to be here, and first I wanted to take some time to acknowledge that we are in Indigenous lands. And I'm here really to talk about interdisciplinary and collaborative research called the UC Davis RACE Project that I'm doing with Dr. Sunaina Maida, Dr. Wendy Ho, some wonderful graduate students and undergraduate students. And in this research project, which we are continuing, and hopefully with all of you, we are investigating really UC Davis institutional memory and the ways in which all of us, faculty, students, staff, and workers at UC Davis make meaning of and are impacted by what we mean by diversity. And what are the institutional policies that construct and implement by what we mean by diversity? And also how these are shaped by gender notions of diversity, sexual notions, religious, class notions of diversity. And so our question was really, how do students, faculty, staff, workers negotiate race on a daily basis at the university? So understanding that the university is a racialized institution, and how we negotiate this racialized institution on a daily basis. And also, what are the representations of this racialized institution produced, suppressed, or reworked in official memories? So what is the official narrative that is produced by the university? What are the gendered stories that are told? What are the sexual stories, the class stories? Are they suppressed or not? So what we are trying to investigate is, as we navigate on our daily basis when we're here at the university, the racialized institution, the institutional memory and the forgetting of these racialized histories are closely intertwined. When I arrived here in 2006, many people talked about incidents that had happened before, and I didn't know about them. And that negotiation of this racialized institution, we argue, are contingent of how we remember our history. And so in moments of racial crisis, as the ones we have had in the last months, right, with the campus climate issues, these stories emerge and are retold, and these histories of racism emerge in crisis, and we try to trace those processes because they're appropriated, they are regularized, sometimes they're normalized, they're integrated, and oftentimes we are afraid, forgotten in struggles over race at the university. And so what we're trying to do in this UC Davis Race Project is assemble an archive of material and collect stories from staff, from faculty, and from students to understand our history, our role, and institutional configurations of what we mean by diversity, and to try to collect this history of diversity in many meanings, and how can we try to put together our own memories and our own stories. So what we started to do is try to collect histories of anti-racist activism and social justice movements at UC Davis. How many of you knew that Danzantes del Alma emerged as activism? Okay, but many of you did not. And I think it is important that we all know that Danzantes del Alma emerged because of activism. We should all know that, right? And so part of what we're trying to collect is that history. And so part of what we have done is collect stories of emeriti faculty. So before they leave the institution, they tell us their experiences here. What they experienced, what did they witness, what were they part of as faculty, as well as staff. We hope that people who, you as students, what have you been involved here? And I would invite you that if you want to share your experiences here and how you have experienced this institution as racialized, as gendered, as classed, you can share your stories with us, and we will archive it because it is important, not only on Facebook, but that is also kept so that as other students, as other people come here, they know their history and what you have gone through. And so that is what we have done, and we did a Third World Forum. We are trying to archive it and make it public. So we did a Third World Forum exhibit in Hart Hall, where we are trying to make it visible to students the great activism done by students. How did they do it since the 70s? And they were doing that kind of work. So I would invite you to Hart Hall to go and see that exhibit that goes from the first floor to the third floor. And in the first floor, we're honoring the hunger strike. We have photos, we have the demands, because it is important that the students realize the power they have, right? That they were able to ask the administration to do something. They understood that there was institutionalized racism, and they called to action, the power that the students had. And so it is important for us to empower the students. And so thank you for the honor of talking here. And it would be great if we could archive your poem, for example, if we could archive other of your narratives, as well as the history of Danzantes del Alma. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalia, and it's very reaffirming, I know, to our students and to staff and alumni to feel reaffirmed by a faculty member whose research is really looking at the narrative of our student experiences. Thank you. Now I would like to invite the director of the Cross Cultural Center, aka my boss, Stephen Baisa, who will be introducing our next speaker.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So are you all asleep? So when someone says good afternoon, there's like a call and response, where I'm coming from. So there's got to be a little bit of energy back. So when I say good afternoon, what do you say? Good afternoon. Love it. And you all look great from here, by the way. So, okay, so no one told you I want to say that right now. But let me take a little bit of time to introduce to you our next speaker. It is truly a pleasure to introduce to you a true strong student advocate, my former boss, a great mentor, and the person responsible for pushing the vision and building of this fantastic building our students call a home away from home, the Student Community Center. Born in Mexico and raised in Woodland, Griselda Castro is a 30-year-plus UC Davis emeritus staff and former associate vice chancellor of student affairs. She graduated from San Jose State with a degree in liberal studies in teacher education and completed courses towards master's degree in counselor education from CSU San Jose and student affairs policy leadership at CSU Sacramento. Before coming to UC Davis, Grisela worked at as a higher education specialist for the California Post-Secondary Education Commission in the Educational Equity Unit in Sacramento. Prior to relocating to Northern California with her family, Grisela worked at Stanford University, where she was the assistant dean for campus affairs. While at Stanford, Grisela was instrumental in establishing El Centro Chicano in 1978, a cultural and resource center for Chicano Latino students that continues to thrive as a vital community resource even now. And continuing on, we will actually be at Stanford in June for a big conference with my colleagues from the cultural centers and higher education. Grisela began her career at UC Davis in 1982 as a part-time academic advisor in the Dean's Office for Undergraduate Education in the College of Letters and Science, where she was the EOP liaison. In 1996, Grisela became the coordinator for student affairs in the Chicano Studies program, and in March 2003, Grisela joined Gary Perkins as the interim co-director of the Cross-Cultural Center, and then was appointed as the assistant vice chancellor for student affairs in July 2004. In this role, Grisela had oversight and leadership responsibility for student life, campus community, and retention services unit, which included the Student Academic Success Center, the Women's Resources and Research Center, the Cross-Cultural Center, the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, Intersex Resource Center, Ethnic Studies Student Affairs Officers, the Campus Media Board, Student Assistance to the Chancellor, and as I mentioned earlier, the development and establishment of the Student Community Center. Grisela was also the Student Affairs Liaison to ASUCD, as well as the Law School Student Association and the Graduate Student Association. Please join me in welcoming a living legend, Grisela Castro.
What Stephen said, but just being here in the presence of all of you. I had some notes written down, but I'm not going to look at them because I really feel speechless after what the students said and the poem. I think that captures in my heart what I have felt for students throughout the 40 years I've spent in higher education. And I learned a long time ago to listen well and to listen hard because they know truth of their experience, and they're so much more articulate and smarter and think things through in a way that is always amazing to me. The importance of student activism is key and pivotal in making institutional change, making the university work for you. All of you know the history. I'm sure that those of you who are here know the history of racial relations, of inequities, knowing that those who have had access to higher education has depended on the zip code, and that we have a long way to go. We've made some progress thanks to the sacrifices, the moral conviction, and the passion of the hunger strikers that we celebrate today. My life as a student was, I learned more about life and leadership outside the classroom than I learned in the classroom. Entering college in 1970 at the height, following the free speech movement at the height of activism on my campus in the Bay Area, my orientation to college was there's no classes for 2 weeks. The faculty are on strike because we just invaded Cambodia. Go to 7th Street, go to Teach-Ins, and from there the journey began for me to learn about how to impact change. My life trajectory has been as a change agent, but it's through students and through their insights that I've been able to help make the institution work for you and with my colleagues. So they asked me to talk a little bit about what life was like in 1990 when Gopal, Aman, Jose were here, and when they made that very, very difficult decision to not only put their hearts and souls into something that they felt a strong conviction for, but they put their bodies on the line. And they did that in a very selfless way. It wasn't about them, it was about you all. and the generation that comes after you. It was making sure that the doors were open. Many things have been happening on campus, similar to what you've all experienced in the recent months here. Setting the stage, there wasn't any resource centers other than the EOP program, and the PACs, thank goodness, provided that voice and that leadership for many of the diverse communities here. There was small ethnic studies departments with part-time faculty, and not only did the faculty have to teach the classes, but they mentored the students, they counseled them, they oversaw Danzantes del Alma, they were responsible for the cross-cultural days program, the La Onda Chicana, which was a radio station. That was a lot to ask of part-time faculty who were trying to get tenure and trying to bring research into their classrooms. So this was the setting. There wasn't a lot of places for them to have a dialogue, to meet each other, to discuss issues. And this is 20 years after the onset of the student affirmative action efforts that started to bring diversity to the campus, after the 20 years after the free speech movement, when our UC president, who was at the helm during the speech movement, said the universities are not, it's not here to provide ideas, a safe place for ideas for students. It's here to provide safe place for students to have ideas. And with